Welcome to another edition of The Greater Work, the audio outreach of Christ Worker Ministries. Listen in as experienced employee and minister, Sean Gibson brings biblical insights to help you worship God both in and with your labor. Now, let's get to work. In the last several episodes of the Greater Work podcast, we've been going through a series titled Among Wolves in the Workplace. We've discussed everything from hostile coworkers to deceptive leaders and their tactics, all to help you go closer to God while enduring these situations. I know that if you've been listening, these tips will be very helpful for you. This week, I want to talk about something that I've been through and countless others have been as well. We're going to talk about changes in your job description. I've gone into work with one set of responsibilities and left work later that day with several more responsibilities added on top of it. No additional pay, no extra title, just more work. Excluding contract workers, if you live in a right-to-work state, your employer, they can change your workplace responsibilities at any time without notification. Let's talk about how we as Christians can handle changes in our job descriptions in light of the corporate world, and then talk about some best practices that you and I can use to grow closer to God and stay productive in the workplace. First, we have to understand that a job description can change for many reasons. Some job descriptions change because the company is growing and they see that you need help because you have so much going on. This is a great situation and you should be thankful for this. This will allow you to focus on what you need to do to help your company prosper. Looking at worst case scenarios, though, on the other hand, if you're not performing well and you can't handle the job that you were tasked to do, a company will usually change your job description a bit, give you fewer tasks if they don't just lay you off right away. If this is happening to you, my friend, be sure to get your resume updated because they're going to make your life miserable by trying to manage you out until you leave the company. And yes, they can do this. Again, this is not because you're bad or you have no skills. You have skills and talents that were given to you by God, but they just don't maybe line up with what it is that company needed for that role. My advice to you is to learn from it and move on. Ephesians 2:10 reminds us that we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance as our way of life. Look, just because this job didn't work out doesn't mean the next one won't. A change in the job description can go another way in terms of your employer giving you more work responsibilities than you previously were hired to do. This type of change is bittersweet because when a company gives you more work with the same title and the same pay rate, usually means one of two things. They are either concerned about overhead costs and need to reduce expenses to maintain their business momentum, and this can mean layoffs, so other people are going to be losing their job while you stay on. But if you still have your job, get ready because you're going to be doing the work of two people for a season or possibly permanently. One of the other reasons why a company might do this is out of sheer greed. When companies change your job description out of greed, it's because they want to squeeze additional profits out even though they're doing well. Remember, in the corporate world, it's always about the bottom line. And if a company can increase profits by reducing personnel spending, guess what? They're going to do it. Regardless of the reason for evolving job descriptions, as Christians, we must remember that Christ has everything in our lives under control. We are His ambassadors in the workplace, regardless of what's going on. And we must work knowing that God will take care of us, even if what it looks like is the worst workplace situation imaginable. In Ephesians 6:20, the Apostle Paul described himself as an ambassador for Christ while he was still in chains in prison. As an ambassador, Paul acted godly in spite of his circumstances. If Paul had that kind of perspective, that he was representing Christ while he was in a disgusting jail, how much more can we face additional work responsibilities without complaining? When you're facing additional work responsibilities, here are some best practices that can help you endure this season. First thing, have a discussion with your manager about the additional job changes. Ensure that you clearly understand the new objectives, and then ask if there's any tasks associated with the previous job description that you had. Find out if any of those things will be removed. Your boss may not be aware of everything that you do, so make sure that you both are on the same page and get clarity. The next thing you need to do is ask how long this new set of responsibilities is going to last. Remind your boss that you were hired to do this specific job, and you want to know if this new set of responsibilities will be permanent. If it's a temporary thing, Maybe to help your company get through a tight financial time, be a team player and help them out. Christ talked about being this way in Matthew 5:41 when he said, if someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2. However, if you think that the changes are going to become permanent and not sustainable over a long period of time, prayerfully consider freshening up your resume and sending it out to some prospective companies that you'd like to work for. Seasons change, and so do jobs. You aren't married to your company, but make sure that God is involved if you are going to make the switch. Next, ask if there is any additional training required and understand what that training will look like. Do you need to go off on an off-site training facility? Can you do it locally? What does that look like? Find out and ask your manager what that's going to involve. Next thing, ask if there are any additional benefits that they can offer you by carrying this extra load. If the company can give you extra pay, fantastic. But if they can't, maybe they can give you some more paid time off or let you work at different hours or a different shift. Or maybe they can help advance you professionally by giving you some college money. You will always get a no for the questions you don't ask. So ask anyways, but be humble about it. Lastly, set up a time with your manager, maybe after a few weeks of operating in the new role, to discuss really what's working and what's not. If it is way too much for anyone to handle, be honest and tell them, and try to help your leader figure out the best plan of attack going forward. Look, anyone that has been in the corporate world knows that nothing stays the same, and while your job may change, never forget, God doesn't change. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If the added workload gets to be too much and you're beyond exhausted from it, it's the same never-changing God that says to you now, "Come to me, all you that are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest." Join me next week on the Greater Work Podcast as I continue to share practical steps that you can take to live victoriously among the wolves in the workplace. Also log on to christworker.org for additional tools and teachings on how you can grow closer to God while worshiping Him with the work of your hands. Thanks for listening to The Greater Work, a Christ Worker Ministries podcast. The Greater Work is supported by hardworking listeners just like you. To learn more about Christ Worker Ministries and how you can become part of our growing outreach, visit christworker.org.